Hey everybody, great to be here today. My name is Brent Moores. Time for Exploring Thinkorswim. We're going to hit up the Thinkorswim platform. And today I have stuff I can cover, but I also wanted to leave time for you and whatever questions you have regarding the Thinkorswim platform. So we're going to hit that up today. You can just type those questions into the chat box if you have them. I already have some that I solicited on X earlier today. So we'll hit those up as well. I'm just glad you're here. This past weekend I was in Houston at one of our workshops, and I would just encourage you all to, if there is a workshop in your area, check those out. We're creating them out. We've got a whole bunch of events in 2025 coming up, starting with Dallas at the beginning of the year. Check those out. Now, before we get too far into this, though, let me just mention a few things. This is Exploring Thinkorswim. You can follow me on X at Brent Moores CS is my X handle there. And I'm not sure we have anybody in chat yet, but we'll mention that once they get there. Also, remember, options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. Information today is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered an individual recommendation of any security strategy or chart type. Paper Money application, that's what we're using today, the Paper Money Thinkorswim desktop software. That is for educational purposes only. All investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Short options can be assigned at any time, up to expiration regardless of the in-the-money amount, and past performance of any security or strategy does not guarantee execution at or near the activation price. So there's a great question in the chat from Villager. I'm going to hit that up first because it regards this class. As many of you know, we're making some changes coming up at the beginning of the year with our schedule, which is great. Changes are the way we progress in the world. And one thing that's going to change is our class schedule is going to change. Some of the classes I'm going to be teaching are going to change. This class, right now we have two classes that cover the demonstration of the Thinkorswim platform. We have one called Getting Started with Thinkorswim and one called Exploring Thinkorswim. That's this class. We are going to consolidate those into one class. Now, the good news is, yes, we're losing that, but we're adding other classes as we're going to the new year. So just be aware of that. The consolidated class will be a 45-minute class. So the current Getting Started with Thinkorswim class is only a half an hour. It's kind of just not enough probably. So it's going to be consolidated into a 45-minute class, and Mr. Cameron May is going to be teaching that class. So that's awesome. I will be teaching 3 classes next year: a long options class, an advanced options class, which I already teach, and a managing an options portfolio class. So we'll do that. Hopefully that answers your question there, Villager. So yeah, there you go. Now, one last thing on this. This class, you may be going, I'm going to miss this class. That's great. I'm going to miss this class too. The archives are staying put though. The archives aren't going anywhere. So you can always check those archives for this class. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention here. Now, let's move forward here on this. So I want to start off, and I'm going to get into, Eva had a question that she was the first, she got the first question in today. So we're going to get to her question here in just one sec, but let me mention it in this context. There are features on this Thinkorswim platform that I think can make your life easier. One is, just let me start with kind of a rhetorical question here. How do you track your stocks? How do you track, not just track your stocks on a chart, but track the data that you want on the stocks? Now, one way you can do that is to use this left-hand column and use a watch list. Another way is to go to the Market Watch tab. The Market Watch tab is kind of like this, but expanded. Okay, so in other words, I get them a watch list over here. I have the S&P 100 over here. I have the NASDAQ 100 over here. It doesn't matter. But notice, and you can customize these columns here. Click to customize the column, just click on the little gear. And over here, let me just shrink this down a little bit. Okay. You have a lot more column space, right? You can still customize columns. You click on the little gear and click on customize, or you can right click on the column header and select customize. It's going to do the same thing. And you can choose what columns you have. We have a whole bunch of columns for you, including some mostly pre-established columns here. But if you have custom columns that you want, like scripted columns that you want, then yeah, you can, they'll be added here, and you can add those. And you can see these are custom columns right here, these are scripts that I have right here. And you can set this up how you want it. All right. So let's talk about this. And then I'm going to get to some of these other tabs, including the Visualize tab there, Eva. We'll get to that. But let me just finish this thought here. On this, you may have different columns that are you may want different columns for different purposes. So for example, sometimes I want to look at stocks from the perspective of more of a trader, more of an active trader perspective. And that's what I have set up here. I have, this is just a script above the 10 and 30-day moving average. I have the 1 month return, 2 month return, 3 month return, etc. And I have some other information. Today's change, last price, 52-week high, 52-week low. So you can take your time and customize those. Now, one thing is you can't save this page per se. What you can do is you can leave and come back, and it will be in whatever state you left it in. Okay? You can go just whatever state you left it in is there. But maybe you want to look at a completely different set of columns, and you don't want to change it and mess it up and go back and forth. Okay? So what you do is, what I would suggest you do is do this. Go up to the gear up here. Save your workspace. Save them as separate workspaces. So I have a long-term workspace. Look what happens when I click on my long-term workspace. It's going to ask me if I want to do that. I'm going to pull that up, and it pulled up on a different window. So let me just it's going to make me resize it. So I'm going to try and limit the times I redo this workspace here today. I'll probably do it one more time, but hold on. How's that? Okay. Well, I want this to take up this page. There we go. Now notice, look at my column headers here. Totally different. So Wiley in the chat said, use different workspaces. Yeah, that's exactly how you do it. And so here I have my long-term setup, and it doesn't just affect, the workspace doesn't just affect this page. It can affect your columns on the left over here. It can affect how your charts look. So that's the way to do it. Remember, to do it, you just go to the gear, go to save your workspace as, and you may want to periodically update your workspace anyway. I'm going to go back to my normal kind of standard workspace that I use here. It's probably going to bring it up in the other window, I suspect. Indeed, it did. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this back over to this window right here. Okay? So I think that can be a valuable thing for you. Okay? So now, let's go back to this Market Watch tab, and then we're going to get to some other questions. One of the features on this Market Watch tab is the Visualize tab. So let's talk about the basic use of this Visualize tab. The Visualize tab tells you how stocks are doing. Here I have the S&P 500 listed, okay? And I can see S&P 500 stocks. The size of these rectangles here represent the size of the company. Met is a pretty big company. It has a pretty big rectangle there. We'll see Deere is a smaller company, has a smaller rectangle. So the size represents the size of the company. The color represents whether it's going up or down for today. Green represents up, red represents down, and you'll notice different shades. The darker colors represent a bigger move. Tesla is up about 3% today. It's pretty green. Netflix is kind of this very muted color because it's not really, it's changed very little today. And then AVGO, Broadcom, is down a fair amount today, so it's in this brighter red. Okay, so there you go. That's so that's how you can read that. Now, one other thing I would mention is this, and that is, let me bring up my Epic pin here. Come on. There we go. Let me just move this off to the side real quick. Now, if you look at this, what you're going to see is that it's kind of divided into columns by the sector. Here's communication services. You can see that right here. Here's consumer discretionary. And so some sectors are bigger than other sectors. Actually, I think this goes all the way down there. Okay. IT is the biggest sector. It takes up all this. Okay. It's the biggest sector because it has some of these really big companies, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Apple. Materials is a pretty small sector. You can see that right over there in that bottom left. So that's how you read that. Now, the question was from Eva was, look, and Eva, correct me if I don't get your question right. You have a list of stocks that you want to view on this. Can you view that list? Well, the way you're going to do that is through a watch list. You can view your watch lists here. These are just public watch lists, and commonly we use indices here for these. Dow, I want to look at the Dow, the NASDAQ, whatever. But you can go down to your personal watch list here on the left and go and find your watch list. Here's a watch list I have of defensive stocks, okay? Defense stocks, okay? This is defense stocks, right? So here we have GE, Boeing, General Dynamics, and so on. It's not a huge list. There's only, I don't know how many on, 9 stocks or 10 stocks on here or something like that. But you can do that. Okay, not stocks, options. You can pull up the daily change on options if you were to create a watch list of options. Well, let's talk about that. Let's go and create a watch list here. So now, let me just pull up. I'm going to make this a very simple watch list here, okay? So I'm going to find an option, and I'm going to copy the option symbol, okay? Here's an option symbol. Let's create a new watch list. How do we create a new watch list? Well, I'm going to click here on my watch list. I'm going to create a watch list, and I'm just going to type in options, okay, for today. I'm going to put that symbol in, and click enter. There's that. So there's my watch list, my options watch list. Could I do that here? Well, it should be, in theory, it should be here, shouldn't it? Options. Is it going to let me do it? It's not going to let me do it. Eva, you can't do it, okay? You just can't do it. So it's not recognizing option symbols. I've never tried it. To be honest, I've never been asked that question before, Eva. It's a good question. Personally, I'm not sure I really see the value of doing it, but you know what? There's a lot of things I don't see the value of that people find very valuable. Similarly, there's things that I find very valuable and they don't see the value of. So the answer is no, looks like. It's not letting you do it. Okay? All right, we do have a survey link in the chat. Appreciate your feedback on that survey. Okay, now let me go through and some other questions here. This is the heat map here, and you can also, by the way, on this Visualize tab, you have Visualize. There's other things you can do on this here, but even on the Visualize, where it says heat map, you can change it right here to index watch, and you can do here. And you can view, you can select your watch list here. Let's select a watch list. I'm just going to go to public, and we'll go to NYSE, and there's my NYSE watch list. It's a huge watch list, so you're not seeing, this is only showing the first 80 stocks in it, but you can do that. Again, if I go to a personal watch list, I can do that, but I suspect that personal watch list is not going to give me an option. Actually, it is right here, isn't it? It's showing me It looks like it's given that to me here, Eva. So interesting. On the Visualize tab, it looks like it's doing it. Let me go back to that heat map real quick here. Options. Yeah, it's not doing it for that. But so it looks like the workaround for you maybe is to go to Index Watch. Okay, so you can do that on that Visualize tab if you like. And there's a lot of other features here. We'll get to those maybe in just a little bit here. But let me go through some questions here that have been in the chat. And I saw them. Let me go on through. Sorry, let me just scroll down here. Okay, question. How can missing dividends be included on some security? This is a quarterly 9% dividend, but it's not depicted. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So it's not showing the dividend payment. Now, here, so the answer is, FinWest, I don't know. I don't know why that's not showing, but here's what I would say. Give us some feedback. Make a suggestion on that. You can always do that by going to support, and you can create a support request and send in feedback there. Okay, so that's one way to do it. So if it's not there though, there's no way to add it if it is not there. Okay, I can't add a dividend on here. Obviously, you're not going to see your dividends on paper money. On real money, if you want to view dividends, you go up to the Monitor tab. You can go to Account Statement right here. And if you go to your Cash and Sweep vehicle, and you can change that this is only 1 day, but if you go back in time, we'll go back 7 days here. If there is a dividend payment, you will see that right there, and you'll see the dividend payment right there. So good questions. So question from Villager. After entering a trade, there's a way to go directly back to the Monitor charts. Just once you enter it, just the easiest way is just go charts here, Monitor here. Now, if you are on the Monitor tab and you want to go to charts and automatically go to, say, a particular chart, say Chevron, one thing you can do is you can add a column here that's a send to column. Send to. I'm going to send to orange because that's the one I use. Okay, so now I have that column there. And then if I click here, click on send to, now when I click on charts, it automatically has that symbol for me there. So, but really going from trade to Monitor charts, just click on the tab at the top of the page. Okay. FinWest says, how can I show the chart for past buys and sells for a given security? I can see pending orders, but not past filled orders. So what you want to do is, here's what you want to do. On your charts, go to the gear, go to, let's see, I got to remember which one we're doing at. We're going to look at, maybe it's on general. Not only show orders, but you want to show trades. Those are separate things. Showing orders and showing trades are separate things. This will show you your past trades there, okay? And there you go, okay? Let's see, is there a way to save different watch lists that have different columns? Okay, so this is from Bob, and it's a good question. And this is a common question we get. When you have watch lists, let's say you have a watch list and I pull up, it doesn't matter, interest rates, okay? So here I have a watch list and I want certain columns from this watch list, but if I switch to a different watch list, you want different columns on the new watch list. The answer is no, I can't save the watch list with the column. Now, here's two possible approaches to that, Bob. One is you can do what we said earlier with the Market Watch tab, and you can save different workspaces, okay? But practically, I think the easiest way to do it is do what I did, which is why I did it, is I have different watch lists showing right here. And I have a column here. Here's this column for this watch list. But if I go to this watch list, I have different columns. And if I go to this watch list, I have different columns. And so when I change watch lists, first of all, have multiple watch lists here is the first deal. Okay, you can add as many as you want, I think. Okay, I have, how many do I have? Like 7 there? You can have a whole bunch. And I keep your column configurations because that's harder to change than changing the watch list. And then if you want to change to a watch list with this column configuration, then change the watch list right here. The columns stay put. So I know it's not perfect for you there, Bob. And that's what I'd suggest. Now, if you want, you could, and Bob says this, instead of having to save it as a completely different workspace, which we kind of mentioned, you can detach it. You can detach any of these and leave that open. If you just want it to the side, you can put it to the side there. I'm going to get rid of that. So, but my solution that I like, my preferred solution, doesn't need to be your preferred solution. My preferred solution is to have different columns with different headers here, and then just change the watch list right there. Okay? Let's see. Let me keep going down and say here, see what we got. Okay, we got that. Let me just see our next question here. Okay. Brent, no. Okay. Yeah, no, it's not. That's a good question, Eva. Very good question. Okay, Brent, try to view the options heat map as visualized to check the options, but I don't think a heat map will. Yeah, so Krishna is saying the same thing that I think we kind of found is if you look at the heat map a different way, you got it. Okay, so I was just behind. Sometimes, by the way, when we have chats, they're kind of delayed from when I see them, so it takes me a little bit. To see those. Okay, if you have other questions, feel free to type those questions in. And if I missed one of your questions, type that question in right now. That'd be a great thing. Otherwise, I'm going to go and just point out something else on that MarketWatch tab, and that is the alerts page. Okay, if you want to set an alert, you want to be notified on something, you can go here to MarketWatch alerts. But keep in mind, it's not going to do you much good unless you first set up your alerts under your notifications up here in the upper right portion of the page. Okay, so click on the gear up here, go to application settings, and click on notifications. This is telling you, this is how you can get your alerts. If you want an email sent to you, you got to have your email in here. Now, once you put it in, you got to get a confirmation code. You know how websites do that and whatnot. They make you do that here. Get a confirmation code. Okay, you can have more than one email address there. You want a text message? You got to add your number in here. You can see I don't have either of them in here, but you add that in there. Now, having said that, then once you want to do an alert, let's say you're looking at a stock. Here's CVX. I want to know if CVX crosses below, I don't know, $145. I can go to that MarketWatch. I can type in CVX, it brings it up, and this just kind of, once you put that in, it just kind of looks like a trade page in a sense, but I'm on alerts. Now, if I click on it, it's going to come up and it's going to say CVX, because that's the stock we're on, and click on, then you can choose the price. You know, there's a lot of different prices here. The last price it traded at, current bid price, ask price, mark price. Mark price is typically going to be kind of in between the bid and the ask there. But I said I want to be notified if it goes at or below 145, I think. So I'm going to change this to at or below 145, and then I can create that alert. And now I have that alert here. It's listed. If I want to see it in the future, go to alerts. There it is. I can click right here to cancel that alert there. Okay, now there are other things, okay? There are other things that you can do on this alerts. Instead of just stock going above or below a certain level, let's do this. We'll change up the stock here. We'll go to Honeywell, how about, okay? So here's Honeywell. And let's look at the stock real quick. So here's Honeywell. I want to be notified if the stock crosses below the 30-day moving average. Can I do that? You bet you can. So the way to do that is go to MarketWatch, Honeywell. I'm going to click on this. I'm just going to click on it, and it's going to bring it up this way. But instead of price, I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to make it a study. Okay? And so I'm going to edit this study, and it's going to give me this little window here. And we're going to change this. Okay? I'm going to edit this. And I'm going to say, I wanted to know if the stock crosses below the 30-day moving average. Yeah. Can we do it? Yeah. Think about it. Well, I want the stock, or the stock price, we'll say, price. And I'm just going to say the closing price. We'll say the close crosses below the moving average. Well, is moving average a value, a study, function, or price? It's a study, okay? So I'm going to go here. I'm going to type in simple moving average. And I think I wanted a 30-day. Defaults to 9 days. 30-day moving average. And click on Save. And click on OK. Click on Create. I now have another study. And this one is a study based on it crossing below the 30-day moving average. I don't know what they call it. Currently it's false. In other words, it's not below the 30-day moving average right now. If it does, then it would sin there. Okay. So there we go. Let's go and look. Okay. How do I add a study to my toolbar is the next question. That's from Sharon. Sharon, great question. And I've covered this in past sessions, but this is a Q&A day. So we're going to go with your questions, and there's a lot of newer viewers here. If I go up here and I want to add a study up here, say a relative strength study, for example, I have that up there. If I click on that, that relative strength comes up there. The first step you got to do is you got to go to your gear, and on the General tab, where it says My Tools, change that to On Each Chart. It's probably going to say Off, okay, right now. You got to change that to On Each Chart. That's your first step. Once you do that, then you'll have a little gear over here. You click on that gear, and then it's going to give you the choice to add the button, okay? You can add a button, and it's going to ask you what kind of button you want, what you want to add. If you want to add a study, go to Study, and you can choose you can look at all studies if you want. And there's obviously, I think I heard there's more than 400 studies here or something like that. But that's where you add it. You just choose it. Okay, let me get out of that. And there you go. Okay, now I just messed it up because I didn't choose anything there, and that's like a little thing it does here. Let me go back and see if I can. So yeah, you see Off is what it looks like on each chart. There we go. So anyway, that's how you add that on there. Now, then it's going to start out unpinned, I think. If you want to pin it so it just stays there permanently, you just click on that little pin mark. Otherwise, you got to take your cursor and just kind of put it at the top of the page. ATR is not there. ATR should be there. That's surprising if it's not. Let me go and let's look. I don't know why that. It may be under average true range. I can't remember. So we're going to add study, all studies. Yeah, ATR is right there. So ATR should be there, Sharon. Check it out again. You may have just missed it because there's a lot of stuff, so it's easy to miss. I suspect you'll probably find that there. Okay. Now, don't confuse adjusting the, I did it again. I didn't add it, and it doesn't like that. don't confuse adding a study with a study set. You can add a study set, but the only study sets you can add are if you go to, you have to have saved that study set. Go to studies, then you can save that study set. Now, I've done that. So for example, here's a study set I've saved. Here's a study set I've saved. And I have 2 moving averages and a indicator down here, this RSI indicator. Okay. So I want to look at them all at once on the same chart instead of add them one at a time. So in that case, don't add an individual study, add the study set. First, you got to save the study set. So add the individual studies on there. So they're all there. And then you can go up to studies and save your study set. Okay, question from Villager. Is there a way to delete a whole batch of watch lists? No, I've not seen one. You got to do them one at a time. Sorry, I know that can probably be tedious, I guess, if you're doing a whole batch of them, but that is that. And then follow up, same for scan queries, correct. Scans, just one at a time. You got to delete them one at a time there, okay? By the way, we were on earnings as well. And if you have questions, feel free to type those questions in the chat. If you have earnings as well, you can put on alert on earnings, okay? Go to that Market Watch. You can again, kind of do the same thing we did before. I'm going to click on this, and you can go, and if you click up here, price condition. Notice there's different things we can do. One of those is calendar events. I can notify event type. In this case, it's going to be earnings. And I would be an earnings event on AT&T. I'd create that earnings. But notice also, we've already talked about price conditions. We've talked about earnings now. News. News sounds great to have alerts on charts, by the way. There is a downside, though. Some companies have, to be honest, a lot of news. And so if I put in Microsoft or something and I want all the news stories on Microsoft, I'm probably going to be inundated with news stories on that. So so just be a little cautious on that one before you do that. Okay. Also, portfolio metrics. You can change, you can put you want to know if your portfolio data changes from, portfolio delta changes from, I don't know, 50 to 60 or something. You can put that in there. Overall portfolio delta. So I guess my point is, if you are interested in alerts, there's a lot of, I think for most people, you think of price alerts. And to be honest, that's where most alerts come from. But in addition to price alerts, you can do alerts on studies, crossing above the moving average, for example. We showed you that example. Portfolio metrics, news, earnings, ratings change. You own a stock, you want to know if it gets downgraded? Do a ratings change. Now, you got to be a little careful. Now, look at this. If I do a ratings change, look what I can do. Instead of doing all symbols or a specific symbol, maybe I want to do it on a watch list, a specific watch list. Okay, so I want to know ratings changes for a watch list. Then I can click over here and I can pick up individual symbols, or I can click here and I can say, oh, I want this in my whatever watch, you pick your watch list, my bull flag watch list or whatever, doesn't matter. I can click on that. Then it's not giving me ratings changes for the whole market, but it is giving me ratings changes for that particular watch list that I have. Okay? So Ricebird said, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff. And that's why this is, it can be kind of intimidating. You gotta learn one thing at a time. I was up at Air Force Base Museum just couple weeks ago, really. And I walked in one of these planes. I don't even remember which plane it was, but if you've looked inside the cockpit of a modern jetliner, a 737 or something, you see dial. It's like intimidating and everything. Well, I'm not a pilot, so I can't tell you, but for this plane that we're trying to fly here, you learn one thing at a time. So I showed you a lot of different types of alerts, but obviously start with the basic ones. Start with the price alert. Now let me show you another type of alert here. Let's say we have a stock and we have okay, all right. So if you have a diagonal line and you want to be notified, if it crosses that, right-click with your mouse. And then what you can do is you can create an alert with the drawing. Create an alert with the drawing. Not create an alert, that's different. Create an alert, that's what we did before. Okay? That's just an alternative way of what we did before. But if I create an alert with the drawing, then what I can say is if it crosses above, in this case, it's a trend line, okay? And then I can create that. All right, so that's a whole bunch of different alerts there that you can do on studies, on drawings, on portfolio events, on stock earnings, things like that. Okay. All right. Any questions, folks? If you want your questions answered, now is the time to get them in because we're going to be wrapping up here before too long. Here, let me just double check. And if I haven't answered your question, if you typed it in, then somehow I missed it amongst the other questions. And so please, if you would just copy and paste, retype that question in, and we will we'll do that there. Okay, so that's alerts. By the way, one other question I had was watch lists. Okay, watch lists. What if I want to create a watch list? What if I want to import a watch list from a spreadsheet? Okay, what if I want to create a watch list from a spreadsheet? So let's go and do that. But let me just mention, Robert in the chat said, you need to set it to log scale to get line alerts. Okay, thank you, Robert. So this is what Robert means here. If you can't get those line alerts, go up to your gear. One thing to double check and go to, it's going to be price axis, and you can change log scale there if you want, okay? All right, let's go and do one more thing. Spreadsheet. We want to import that spreadsheet in here. We want to import a spreadsheet adds to a watch list. Well, you add it the same way. You do it whatever, let's say you have a list on an Excel spreadsheet or maybe a other spreadsheet, a Google, I can't remember what the Google spreadsheet product's called, but then what you do is you click here. First of all, save it to your computer. Click here to your watch list, and then create a watch list. But what you're going to do is you go right here to where you import your watch list there. Okay, import. Then you can, I guess you can paste the files in, or if you can find the file on your computer, you select your file, okay, and then you can go through your computer and select that file, and you can either add to a current watch list or you can replace them in there on that. So anyway, that's how you can do that. All right. So there we go. Okay, let's, we're going to wrap this up with Martin says, how can I add a Cahold? I think, Martin, you're saying you want, there's probably a custom ThinkScript study called a Cahold study that you're using. There's no set Cahold, pre-established Cahold on a chart. But if you have a script, you can always add scripts. Go to the gear, open shared item, paste that script in there. Then you click on preview. It'll ask you to name it and then import it. Okay. So yeah, there's no custom, there's no default or existing standard Cahold in there, but you would need a script on that. And then Riceburg says, how can we add money to my live Thinkorswim just like you can on Paper Money? So yeah, you got to pay extra for that one, Riceburg. I'm just kidding. To add money in your Paper Money, which Riceburg, you know this, but others may not, so let's just hit that up there. If you just go to your watch list, just right click on a symbol and you can adjust cash. That'll let you add symbols there. That'll let you add symbols there. Okay. So let's see. Let me just finish this up here. Okay. Sometimes I'd like to create a watch list from symbols you guys post on X. Do you have to start with the symbols with the no, you do not have to start symbols with the $sign. Some symbols possibly require a $sign, depending on the, some indexes may require a $sign, but your typical symbol does not require it there. Okay, that is it. This is it, folks. This is it. So I do appreciate you all for joining me today. Remember, top of the year, next week, it's holiday time. Some of the hours are limited next week. This time is Christmas Eve. This class will not be held. And then, because it's Christmas Eve, and the week after that, it's New Year's Eve. Okay, same deal. And then the next week, we have that consolidated schedule between the Getting Started with Thinkorswim and the Exploring Thinkorswim. Remember, the archive for this class is available. Thank you for all your questions, everybody. Hopefully that helped you. And I just wish you all a wonderful holiday time here. And we'll see you all same time next week. In the meantime, make sure you check us out on X, Barb Armstrong, CS at Brent Moores, CS Barb. Thanks for helping out in the chat there today. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.